as you free up your time, you have to go reinvest it, correct? Like a lot of people hear that. It's like, okay, I got all this time. So my whole thing isn't 4-hour work week. My whole thing is become the best version of yourself. And I actually want to acknowledge you for something you said earlier that I loved, is you said that when I started doing the YouTube, this got better and this got better and this got better. Here's why. Everybody's curious. This is my belief. I think everybody on earth is here to do two things. Number one, become the best version of themselves. What I call the 10.0 version of yourself, your highest self, the person that, whatever faith you believe in, let's call him God. God created you in his image. He knows what your potential is, and you should try to become that. You should wake up every day to try to be the best version of yourself, and then share that with the world.
You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton, here, hanging with you guys, and good morning. Well, super excited about hopping into this podcast episode here with the man, Dan Martell. He is the author of the most popular book that is going viral like crazy. That is the Buy Back Your Time book. It focuses on the buyback principle. And not only that, super successful individual business-wise. Basically, we're able to lock him down through a little bit of networking and get him on the show. Probably one of my most excited guests so far. I mean, I'm personally excited about having this gentleman on our show to share with you guys about growing a company, about growing a real business, growing a big business. Dan is exceedingly successful, as you guys will see here. And the stuff that he talks about, the stuff that he shares, I think can set a lot of you guys free, myself included. Actually, I picked up the book about a month ago, the audiobook probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and just literally went through it like crazy and need to read it several more times. I told Liz this is one of the instruction manuals that we're going to be using to grow our businesses, to grow wealth for our family for the next handful of years. And I hope to hear and network with Dan a lot more in the future. That being said, guys, we did a Zoom meeting here. So if you guys want to watch the video, interview, I invite you guys to check out the Brian's Law Maintenance YouTube channel. You can check it out there as well. And just seeing Dan and his mannerisms and his excitement and his body language, like the guy's got it going on. And the video is twice as exciting as you can imagine as the audio. So that being said, super excited about reviewing this podcast episode with you guys. If you enjoy it, make sure you guys, give Dan a follow on social, pick up the book, #1 best time seller, Wall Street Journal best seller. And it's absolutely amazing content. Really encourage you guys to check it out. I don't hype up a lot of authors. I don't hype up a lot of gurus. I don't hype up a lot of people in the business world because 99% of them are saying the same thing and regurgitating the same thing. Not a lot of really individual thoughts going out there in the business community these days. But something just stroke different with me with Dan. And I think you guys will really enjoy the authenticity that he brings to this podcast episode and the way he approaches business, including helping you guys have more time and more money. So that being said, a little bit of a lengthy intro here, but I'm telling you what, it's worth it. Let's kick it over to the actual interview here, and we'll jump right on into it. Hey guys, we're hanging with the man, Dan Martell here with the Buyback Principle. Super excited about this interview for you guys. Dan, you and I have already been pitching and catching for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, whoa. Let's hit record and start getting this stuff on the show. Really quick, for people that maybe don't know you just yet, give them the 60 to 90 second highlight reel, we call it, and then we're going to dive into some stuff. Guys, strap in. It's going to get wild.
Yeah. Grew up as a troublemaker, in trouble with the law, drug addiction, teenage ADHD, in and out of group homes, foster homes, jail twice, almost took my life in a high-speed chase. Somehow, some way, some incredible people came into my life and spoke their belief into my possibilities. Ended up in rehab for 11 months, discovered computer programming of all random things, and got out. This is 1997. Found this thing called the internet. And then since then, I've been on a journey of working on becoming a better version of myself through entrepreneurship, like the ultimate personal development program, and I've started 5 software companies. First 2 were complete failures. The last 3 I've exited. I became a multimillionaire when I was 27, 28. And then today I run the largest coaching organization in the world for software CEOs called SaaS Academy. I have $100 million private equity fund called Big Band Software. I've invested in, I think, 65 software companies as an angel investor. I was named #1 angel investor by KPMG. And I wrote a Wall Street Journal best-selling book more recently, which I think, Brian, is how you came across my radar, or maybe my content, my social media stuff. I put out, almost 100 pieces of social media every month to just try to serve and support and help get people's mind straight around the entrepreneurial game that we're all playing. I just think people don't understand what game they're playing.
Man, I'll tell you what, we're going to break some stuff down here. I'm going to be as respectful of your time. We blocked out an hour. I'm going to go for like 30 minutes. If you want to go longer, it's up to you. But
no, you got the whole hours there, man.
Let's help some people out, because before we hit record, I said, Dan, I came across your content on an Instagram reel. I did a Hail Mary pass to see if we get you on the show. Thankfully, you said yes. And I'm telling you, when you guys are done with this, you're going to just have your mind blown. So the first Instagram reel, I'm just scrolling through one night, late night, like everybody else. And you jump on and you say, you get the gurus promoted to you all the time on Instagram. They're all saying decent stuff. But I'm like, I'm so gurued out because everybody like says stuff, but they never give you any execution, right? And so I'm like, that's just my opinion. So I'm going through and you said something, and I don't know if you remember this reel, but you said, if I own a restaurant and the head chef quits, I don't run in there to start being a chef. I'm not a chef. I don't know what a chef does. I'm not a chef. You said, I'm a business owner. I'm going to go find a chef. Well, it kind of related to me. It was a 30, 40-second reel. I had just lost my foreman. He got injured. So I'm like, now I got to jump back in the field. And I'm like, man, 4 steps forward, 3 steps back. Well, okay, whatever. Great little piece of advice. I have no idea who this guy is. I don't even know if I looked at your name. And then the next reel was, you had said, an interesting observation you had made with younger folks that start technology businesses is that these guys build their businesses different. Most guys traditionally build their business to grow, to scale, to make money. These guys are growing and scaling their businesses to get their freedom and their time back. Between the first reel and the second reel, I was like, who is this dude? Anyway, you go down the whole like Instagram reel, the lurking, the page. I find your book, just ordered on Amazon. I get it. I start reading. I'm like, dude, this is the first person in probably 4 or 5 years that has made me as excited about reading a book and the content he's sharing with execution out of all the gurus. And I've read all the books and all the people and all the stuff. And I put out a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, this guy's speaking on a different wavelength, a different language. And it really, really gave me excitement and hope for not only myself, but the content that I'm putting out there. So what is the buyback, principle? Where are you coming with all this content and this information? And why are you so passionate about getting the message out?
First off, Brian, I know why you're successful based on the fact that you just shared that journey with me, because I can just tell that you're engaged in your personal growth, right? Some people are passive. I don't think they realize like this is not like, we don't get another shot. Like I wake up today and I do stuff and like, this is another thing is like in 10 years, you're going to wake up and you either woke up with intentionality to execute or you don't. And I can just tell like the reason why you're successful is because you don't take moments for granted, right? Sure. And you're willing to ask questions about like, who the heck is this dude and what has he done? And he's he legit and et cetera. And I love that, right? I think it's really important. I wrote the buyback principle is the core framework behind the book. Or, I'll give you all the backstory. How about we do this? The book was originally supposed to be called The Buyback Principle. I'm glad that my publisher fought with me on this. I did fight back. I offered to buy out their contract. They've never had an author do that to them before.
Okay.
And they're like, you can't do that. I go, no. I can do whatever I want to do because I don't financially, I do not need this book to make money. And I have an opinion. I wanted to create the best, I wanted to write a great book. I spent so much time, 2.5 years, and I wrote the book for all the entrepreneurs that follow me that I may never have the opportunity to serve. For at the time, now I actually have a coaching program for people that read the book. But prior to that, I didn't. I only, I built and grew and buy software companies. That was my world. And I'd learned this very unique approach to leverage, right? And I'll give everybody, write this down. People take notes. Today, we got to take notes. There's the 4 C's of leverage. I call them the master skills. I don't talk about them in the book. But the 4 C's to leverage, right? Because if time's a constant, output is a variable, right? Some people do a little bit of time, have massive output. Some people do a little bit of time and have no results. The formula is leverage. Okay. It's the multiplier. Okay. What do I do with these four? And the four are the capital, content, right? So capital is money. Content is this stuff. Playbooks is content. Video trading is content. Code, software automation. We were just talking about a bunch of software folks in your space. And then collaboration, which is people. So those are the 4 C's to leverage. They're the master skills. So I learned these things in the software world because I started investing and advising when I was like 26, like early. I literally made a bit of money in my first company. And then I think a lot of us read maybe Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and we're like, oh, I want to work my way through these quadrants.
Right.
And that was my value add to a lot of the early entrepreneurs, was just helping them understand their time and how to quantify it, because a small business owner is a small thinker, right? It's just, that's why they're a small business owner. They're a small thinker. They don't understand what actual game they're playing. So the buyback principle states this: we don't hire people to grow our business. We hire people to buy back our time. Because if I do the second, I get the first. But if you do the first, you don't get the second.
Wow.
If you do the first, you will end up building a business you grow to hate, and you'll hit what's called the pain line. And I've seen all of my friends, okay, I don't care who they are, because if they've never been taught this, it's inevitable, right? And pain line could be, my wife just left me, my kids won't talk to me, I put on 40 pounds, I'm in depression, I'm taking medication, I'm not sleeping, like whatever it is. There's different levels of pain, but usually it shows up in your calendar. When I was sitting down, I was working with my buddy Ron, who is the book CEO. Like, I applied the buyback principle to the book. So Ron was the CEO of the book. We would brainstorm ideas because I'd put out like 500 videos on my YouTube channel, and he had all these different thoughts. And when he was like, hey man, I think this buyback principle, because he really dug in my work, because I've been coaching people for 5-6 years. So I gave him access to the back end, and he's like, holy moly. Like, it took him a while to kind of sort through all the different things. And we came up with the buyback as the core premise for the book. But what's unique about the book, Brian, and I appreciate that you read it, is that people sometimes say, well, is this a productivity book? And it's like, yeah, probably one of the best. Is it a leadership book? Yeah, it's that too. Is it a what do I do in my life? Why am I doing this vision book? Yeah, that's in there too. The reason why, for me, it's almost like chocolate broccoli. I'm going to get you in by making you money. Okay, that's the chocolate. Buy back your time, grow a business you build a business you don't grow to hate. And then once I get you that free time, right, using the buyback loop, then I'm going to show you how to reinvest in becoming more. Okay, because the subtitle of the book is very, very deliberate.
Yep.
It's, get unstuck, reclaim your freedom, and build your empire. And in my world, an empire is a life of unlimited creation you never have to retire from. And I want that for every person in the world. I want it for Sarah, who's cleaning my house right now. I love her. I don't know if she'll ever hear this, but I want it for every person that I drive around. Like, I have this, I don't know, man. Sometimes I think I'm weird, but in my mind, I'm always trying to just shine and express and be an example of possibility for everybody around me, because I just feel so grateful that, dude, I came from not a setback, dude, a hole. Like, growing up, my life, like a massive hole, in trouble with the law. Nobody thought I would do anything productive with my life, let alone not like end up taking my life. Well, so this magical world that I live today, I just want that for everybody.
So, well, let me ask you this. I mean, okay, so we're going to break a bunch of that down. And this seems to be like your triumph out, but what was it from? Like, what was the catalyst to come together with this thought process or this principle? Like, how did you practically, whether you come up with it or just out of necessity, right? Sometimes that's the mother of all invention. But was it through your companies you were growing? You're like, because imagine my guys, right? They're owner operators, 1 to 10 guys, 1 to a million.
I know your guys very well. I have probably 4 friends that own lawn care companies at different stages. I have friends that are property manager, owning companies, HVAC, like the friggin', I love them because they literally make the world go round. If they don't wake up every day, stuff doesn't happen. Well,
and they're the ones that I get to have on as podcast guests, and they're my buddies, right? They're my lawn bros, and so many more. And even broadly speaking, the small business owner. But it's like, they're always spinning the tires. They're always spinning the gears. They're practically speaking, always exhausted. They seem to be never really able to get over the financial hump. And not everybody wants to grow a big business or a big empire, but so maybe two parallel paths. Like, like the audience and the age group and the demographic of who I am and we're talking to that we want to help. But then also, what was the parallel path maybe story with your story? Was this just another thing, like I said, out of necessity, where you were like, I can't keep being the sales guy?
I know the moment.
Yeah.
No. There was a moment. Essentially what happened, Brian, is I learned how to code at 17.
Okay.
That became my new addiction. And entrepreneurship was my vehicle. I was like, I want to build businesses. So I got involved, but I went from failure to failure, back to back from 17 to 24.
Okay.
And what happened at 24 is a friend of mine, Corey, had been recommended a book called The E-Myth. Michael Gerber, E-Myth.
And classic.
Yeah. And I'd never read a business book. And I had just finished reading another book called Love is a Killer App, which is not well known, but I think is one of my favorite books still to this day. And so the second book was E-Myth. And I fell in love with the message so much that I was like, I need to build my next company. This is the missing piece. So I hired an E-Myth coach. Okay. This guy named Bob. I was paying him $1,500 a month. Okay. US. I'm Canadian. Like, didn't even have a business idea. Okay. So like real money, like everything. I was like consulting and doing stuff. And Bob showed me what business meant, right? He had done 25, 30 years in financial services. He understood the principles, and I was so ready, right? When they say like, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. I was hungry. My dad was like, could you just get a job? I really don't think this is for you. And I'm like, I can't work for somebody else. I'm too opinionated. And I went all in. And what happened is through Bob's mentorship and coaching, I started to find success. Finally, I don't know, Brian, if you've ever struggled. And then finally it's like, it's going, and you're like, and it surprises you. And you're like, oh shit, now there's a thing. This thing is happening. Okay. I can start to see how this kind of unfolds. And I became intoxicated with that. And I went all in. I was obsessed. And what happened is through this 4-year period, along this journey, I end up, meeting a girl. What do I want from my life? Well, I want a relationship. I want this, I was a dreamer. But I was so scared to lose the momentum, to lose the it factor, to lose my edge, that I was all in. I was working 100-hour weeks. Sure, we do stuff together, but even when I traveled, then I would be, in this relationship, I'd fly her to New York and we'd do a weekend together, and she'd fly back home, and I'd go on to a client meeting or install software. So like, I wasn't a great person to be around. Yes, financially, we did $1 million our first year, a couple million second year, and this thing became a thing. But what happened for me is we got engaged, this woman, and one day I'm at the office on a Sunday afternoon, and I realize I'm late. I was supposed to meet her to go to her friend's house, and I rush back to the house. And when I run into our home, I find her in tears in the kitchen, and she's just beside herself. I mean, dude, she couldn't even talk.
Right. Right.
Kind of like ugly cry type thing, like sniffles and like full face. And that's where she was at. And it wasn't the first time she was upset with me, but I was like, okay, in my head, I'm like, okay, I got to make this right.
The things got to change. Talk,
Yeah. But not the first time. Okay. And she literally just looks at me and says, I'm done. Takes the ring off. We were engaged at the time, 7 weeks before our wedding, and walks right past me out the front door, goes to her parents' house. And that was it.
Wow.
So what changed in me over 6-7 months after that was this deep hole that I knew I created from that obsession of wanting to be successful. But the realization that I was doing that in the name of my future, but she never asked me for any of that. She didn't care an extra $1 million. It was none of that was important to her. All she wanted was me to be present and engaged in our relationship. I thought, oh, we're engaged. That's sorted. Like, gave her a ring. We're good to go. I'm heading back to the office.
Right.
Man, I was so delusional. I was a horrible friend. I would go to I remember my best friend Nick was having his birthday party. Okay. And I show up and I bring my laptop and I'm sitting in his living room and I'm working on contracts and replying to emails. And in my head, Brian, this is what I think to myself. I'm one of the best friends in the world. I'm so busy, but I made time to come to his birthday party. If you ask Nick who Dan was at that point, he'd go, you were the worst person to be around. Like, I can't even believe, dude, we talked to you and you weren't even there. You're always on back then the BlackBerry. And, my brother was like, you weren't present. My dad, he'd call. And the worst, this is the worst thing I was doing that I do not do anymore. I would answer the phone and go, what's up? And then they'd be like, oh, just a second. Oh, I'm really busy. Let me call you back. Brian, can I just give everybody some advice? If you can't talk, don't answer the phone. It's a rule I have now. If somebody's calling me and I can't talk, I don't even have notifications on my phone, so I don't know when 90% of people, except for my wife, calls. Yeah. But her rule is, if it's important, she calls me twice. That rings through. Other than that, if I can't talk, I don't answer the phone. It's just a subtle little, how do you show up better? So what happened was through that pain, I then, I work with a therapist. Dude, I went through an anxiety. Like, I was having this deep, like, depression and loss because two things happened for me. I exited my company shortly after that. Okay. Became a multimillionaire. Okay. But I was, and this is what's crazy. Not like some people are like, ooh, that sounds like, high quality problems, champagne problems. Look, I'm not an idiot. I get how dumb this can sound to some people, but here I was with all the financial resources. Okay. After working my ass off, and I'm having anxiety attacks. My therapist is making me walk around with a rock in my pocket that I'm supposed to squeeze every time my chest starts to, I'm drinking too much, over drinking to numb the pain. I'd lost my identity, which was my company, right? That was the thing that I was known for. This is what Dan does. This is who Dan is. All of a sudden now, the way we negotiated the earnout is I woke up and there was no demands on my time. And it was so weird. And I was by myself in this beautiful home with nobody to share it with. And that was like, okay. But I'll be honest with you, Brian, there was a period for, 6-7 months where I thought maybe that's just going to be my reality. Maybe I'm the guy, the way I'm built, that I'm just going to be that person that, is the fun uncle, right? Maybe I shouldn't be in a relationship. Maybe I'm horrible like that. Maybe I'm just not built for that. I don't know. And luckily, that's just not the case. And I learned the process of what do I need to focus on to build the dreams of the empire I want to build, right? And your empire can be, it's not a dollar amount. It's a decision. It's a lifestyle, right? And today I have 2 incredible boys. Okay. They're Irish twins. So I had them literally 11 months apart, which for some people, their head explodes when they hear that. I have an incredible relationship, like marriage epic. Okay. Yeah. Date nights. We just had date, like all the stuff people say they want. But Brian, I also have a family coach. I have a relationship coach. I have, we operate our lives like we do a great company, right? We have rhythms and routines. I mean, I talk about them in the book. The last chapter of the book, if you got there, was buyback lifestyle, right?
Yes.
I have people in my life to support me, to create the space for me to be me. I'm not dimming my light, as you can tell. I'm going to shine as bright as possible. And in doing that, but I also have the space to bike to school this morning with my kids and take up 90 minutes of my day and just dick around, and had a blast doing it.
So this is such an interesting conversation because I can see these parallel paths with my own life. And I think that's why, if you don't mind me sharing, like for just a quick second, I can relate to so much stuff that you're freaking saying, because that was my life the last couple of years. It still kind of is right now, as I'm kind of, I don't want to say like climbing out of this foxhole, but here's the reality. At 30 years old, my lawn care business was Mickey Mouse. It's still Mickey Mouse, but anyway, but it was a Mickey Mouse business. We had been married for a couple of years. We were financially broke, my wife and I. I had a 30-year-old midlife crisis. And I'm like, I don't have the Lambo, the hundred millions of bucks, the house, right? And, we're 3 years into our marriage or whatever it was, 5 years in, my wife's like, hey, I thought we'd have all these nice things or whatever, right? And I'm spinning the dream. And I'm like, I'm reading the books. I'm trying to do my best. And anyway, at 30, I have this like midlife crisis and I'm like, shit's got to change. So from therefore, we decided to take the lawn care business to the next level. I happened to hop on YouTube and social media, kind of this parallel path thing of like me trying to help people, then people helping me. The YouTube channel starts to grow. My lawn care business starts to grow. My income starts to grow on both. Out of nowhere, a couple years later, like the income puzzle piece starts to get a lot better. But now I'm stuck in this. I'm spinning 2 plates and my time is non-existent. So 2 years ago, and I don't know like if any of you guys can relate, but it's like, well, do you want the income or the time? Like, I think a good marriage is having both. That's called lifestyle. But at the time, I'm like time poor. But then I meet a couple people in my industry, some of the 8-figure, 9-figure business owners, and I'm like, how are you doing it? Right? The whole how are you doing it? And everybody's always a guru. They're like, you got to like want it. And if you think you want it, but you don't really want it, like you got to work harder and think more. And I'm like, I've been working harder for 12 or 13 years. It's not working harder anymore. It can't be the secret because I've done that for 12 years. So really quick, and then I want to toss it back to you because I meet my friend Greg Whitstock. He's got a $50 million pond company over in Chicago, Illinois. Amazing dude. And I go to visit him. We're doing some podcasts and some YouTube videos on his whole, pond life thing. And he shows me his calendar. It's a 1-year calendar. It's like the size of his desk and it's all color coded and shit. And he's like, all the purple is all my free time. Those are my days off. All the reds like family time. The yellows are when I'm here. The blues are when I'm in Wyoming, whatever. And I'm like, dude, you're only working in your company like 38 days this year. Now, and I'm like, I just don't understand. He's like, oh, this is all free time. And I'm like, I'm working 80 hours a week for years and you're going to put in like 30, let's say 30, whatever, 50 working days. And it just blew my mind. And so anyway, I had to start really think about what I was thinking about. I'm like, what I've been taught is not right. Like, and I've said on my podcast all the time, Dan, is like, it's not what you know that hurts you. It's what you think you know that you think is true. That's actually based on a lie. True. Yeah. So I'm like, I got my MO. You're a code guy. So I got all this bad code in my brain and garbage in, garbage out. And I just realized like, whoa. Everything I've been taught about success seems to be a little bit different, true success, than what I'm getting from some of these books that are 20, 30, 50 years old, or a bunch of gurus that have never been there, done that. And I'm like a secondhand junkie with self-help. Like, I don't have anybody in my life that made more than 6 figures, let alone 7 or 8 figures. So I grew up in a double wide trailer. I'm trying to stitch together this Frankenstein business. And it's been working a lot more the last couple of years because I'm trying to put systems in place and leadership in place and people in place. And I'm starting to get back a lot of my time. And it's been miraculous. Like, I'm not in the field right now. It's amazing. Go figure. Can you share some parallel stories? And it's got to be how you felt building your company. But how did you know you had a missing link? Like, what did you know to look for? Like, how did you know that there had to be a better way? That's my curious question for you.
There's never been a better time to step up to the legendary performance of an Exmark Laser Z zero-turn mower. You'll save thousands when you purchase the total package, a 60 or 72-inch Laser Z mower and our exclusive Tractus airless tires. Plus, qualified buyers can get 0% APR for 48 months on their purchase. But hurry, these offers end May 31st. Visit Exmark.com or stop by your local Exmark dealer for all the details.
Yeah, I got lucky, man. Brian, I moved to San Francisco. I met these kids, literally I call them kids. Today they're, 20. At the time I would have been 28, but they were like 21, 22. And they were building $100 million companies at 21 years old, 22 years old in 5 to 6, 7 years. And now anybody hearing that can easily say, well, that's because they went to Stanford and they're a super smart technical person. And you can dismiss that knowing easily. Or you could ask, what did they figure out that you haven't? And that's what I did. Okay. Even though I became a multimillionaire, honestly, single digits, right? Not 8 figures.
Yeah.
But I was 28 and it was like more money than I ever thought I ever needed. I almost retired. Okay. And then I got on a plane one day and just moved to San Francisco. I didn't know a soul. I wanted to just go check it out. Didn't have a visa, nothing. Just found a place on Craigslist and just chilled out and would go to coffee shops and talk to people. And it was just through that experience of saying, okay, what does this kid know that I don't know? Like, dude, it was so fascinating, man, to meet these. I remember this one guy, Tristan. I went to his office and they had just raised like $10 million. And he was running this team of friggin', they just look like troublemaker misfits. But it looks so fun. I was like, how is he doing this? And, I would just talk to the investors and like, it's just like a different approach. It's like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it was these 4 master skills, man. They understood capital, content, code, and collaboration. Like that was Naval Ravikant taught me this. I don't know. A lot of people know Naval today, but I met him when he was doing, it was when AngelList, which is now, I think it's just angel.co, but AngelList was actually an email list. Like I was a Canadian software investor. So he invited me and he would introduce me to all the Canadian entrepreneurs raising capital. And he was the one that would talk about this. He would talk about equity in other companies as true wealth building. And like, I would just pick this up. So I got lucky that I learned this, but dude, I'll be honest with you, Brian, I was screaming it at the top of my lungs. I was sharing it with anybody that was around me that wanted to listen, the companies I invested in. And that's where I really kind of cut my teeth with understanding how to coach, right? Is I would invest in companies and my value add was helping these CEOs quickly buy back their time. Because look, if I give you money, like you got to understand, let's say somebody gave you, Brian, $5 million. Okay. Most people would be like, well, that's easy to build a company. No, it's not. Okay. I'm just going to say this. If I took the trillions of dollars in the world right now that everybody owns and put it back in the hands of to everybody evenly, within 2 or 3 years, it would be back into the hands of the same people that had originally. The reason why is people think that if I have money, they're a millionaire. No, a millionaire is a mindset. A millionaire is a skill set. A millionaire is a belief system. It's a habit, it's a routine, it's a ritual. You need to learn how to be a millionaire, to be an 8-figure, whatever your goal is, Brian. It's not to have it because you're lucky you don't have it given to you tomorrow because you would lose it just as fast.
Right.
And so like I was watching these people build these companies and then I would like teach other people because I'm like, look, you just raise a bunch of money. I don't want you to just like, now jump in a race car and go straight into the wall. Right. So I would teach them how to think about their time and the right way to get leverage. And that to me, it may not be relatable to some people, but I'm telling you, I'll tell you a real relatable story. My brother was a home builder. Okay. And I talk about him in the book a little bit, but I mean, he called me up when he was 26, I was 27, and I got involved helping him start this home building company. I wrote him a check for, I think it was $172,000. Like all the money I had in my bank account, I gave to my brother because I believed in his dream. My dad thought it was the stupidest thing. He was like, that's so irresponsible. Why would you do that? I go, Dad, who cares? Like the money, seriously, in the grand scheme, I'm 27. I got the rest of my life. But what was fun about that experience is helping my brother build this company is I worked with him on all these mindset beliefs, the buyback principle. Like, he was swinging a hammer. It's like, dude, how are you supposed to sell a house if you're framing a house? Like your job is not to build a house. Like that guy over there that builds houses, I don't see him with a hammer. And he's like, you're right, but I can't afford it. I said, well, don't say you can't afford it. Ask the question, what would need to be true for you to afford it? Right? So like, then all of a sudden he realized like, you know what? I can afford it because if I go sell a house and I make 15, 25 grand, if I do that, like that's where I'm going to make the money. So go work on selling the houses, then hire an executive assistant. And like, dude, you got to understand how crazy this is. Okay. He's 26 years old, starts a business, and his first hire is an executive assistant named Kelly. Everybody, my dad thought that's the dumbest thing ever. Pierre, you're too busy. You have an assistant. Like, you really think that's your first hire? You should blah, blah. Like everybody's got an opinion, but they didn't understand the math. They didn't understand the process. Yep. Is that if he's working on things that are $8, $9, $10 tasks, there's no way he's going to build this multi-million-dollar empire that he told me he wanted to create. And 15 years later, he's one of the top home builders in Eastern Canada. Hundreds of homes a year, big portfolio of multi-residential buildings that he's built himself with the construction crews. And he's just an incredible human being. Okay. And like, that's probably more connected to the lawn caring bros that, because they're like, well, Dan's specialty software guy. No, my brother was like You can go Google Dan and his brother YouTube. You'll watch a video of me interviewing him, and you will see like Pierre's awesome. Okay. But neither him or I were born with any special skills.
Well, so
we just decided to do the work.
So to piggyback on that, I mean, this is good stuff. I hope you guys listening in, this is good stuff. This is good stuff for me because, you know, I have a question. I'm going to lead up towards the end here. And we'll play a devil's advocate because there's a couple different philosophies out there about building companies and the right way to do it. And of course, there's many ways to get to the finish line. But one thing I really like what you said is there's a dissonance out there for a lot of guys as they're growing their company because, you know, they want to do it all. And we've always heard like the most expensive language in the English language. We had Tom Wheelwright on. He said is do it yourself. And he harped, you got to build a team. You got to build a team. He's the CPA for Kiyosaki. And a lot of guys out there, they're like, I want to grow the next $100,000 company, $1 million company, multi-million-dollar company, but also nobody does it like me. I want to be on the weed whip. I want to landscape and do all this stuff. And so one side of them is like, I want to grow. The other side is nobody wants to do it. Nobody can do it like me. And then what I've found, and I love if you can speak to this for a quick minute, is the 3 S's or whatever, the sell, sabotage, install. I wrote that down because that was a huge one for me. I see a lot of guys, like they start growing, then they get frustrated with the process and they revert back. Or they start growing and they sell their company off and like, yeah, landscaping is just not for me. Or I had 4 crews once and 8 guys and it just wasn't for me. Is that the person, the system, the company? Like, what's your thoughts on all that? Because I don't, no shade to anybody that's grown and came back. But I just think like people are like, oh, it just doesn't work that way. And I'm like, well, that's your thought process. I want to hear from a guy who's made it 8 and 9 figures, you know,
and done it multiple times. I mean, this is the thing is, you know, once you're lucky, twice you're good, right? I've done it several times. I've built multiple companies from scratch. People are like, oh yeah, but you have the resources. I almost should start a Netflix show and just go lawn care company. Just me, no money. Watch this.
Sure.
Restaurant, watch this. Sure. You will quickly see that my approach is very different, right? Because this is the mindset shift, Brian. Most people in business think they're creating a business to have a thing to do. Mm-hmm. When I start businesses, I try to race as fast as I can to create the machine. Mm-hmm. So my job is a machine builder. It's not a doer. Okay. I'm a designer. I'm not a doer. A look at the system, what a lot of people call working on the business, but I would even say designing the business, not a doer. Now, when you start, you have to do both, but know that that's what you're doing. You do enough of the doing to create the system to stop doing it, right? So I don't know anything about lawn care, but I would mow lawns, I would make money, and I would try to figure out how can I maximize the income for that transaction. So I wouldn't start low end. I would start there to get going, but then I would quickly figure out like who's making the real money, right? I bet if I asked you, you could tell me, oh, it's this kind of contracts. Don't do this, do this, you know, and then I would look for leverage. Okay, well, I got to invest in some equipment. Okay, can I lease that? So my dollar cost, leverage goes there. Perfect. And then as fast as I can, I'm getting out of the delivery of it, right? But first, I would hire an assistant because I can pay an assistant less than I can pay somebody probably to do the work, right?
Yeah.
So assistant's going to come in, answer phones, make calls, but I'm going to give her the scripts. I'm going to say, this is the email. Go and email these people this message, and I'm going to build demand. And I'm going to work through her to respond to my social media and do all this stuff that I should be doing to build my awareness. And then I'm going to go do the work, but then I'm going to quickly backfill, right? I'm going to buy back my time. And I may not make a lot of money right away because I'm redeploying it in support, but within 6 to 9 months, I'm going to have a machine and it's going to start coming together. And That's awesome. My job is to manage the machine. And then even then, I'm working to optimize the revenue potential of this engine to then work my way out of it to hire somebody else to work through, right? In the book, I talk about the replacement ladder. Yep. And that's all I'm doing. And I that's why like I didn't hold anything back. It's there.
Yeah.
And if you can get your mind wrapped around the concept that your job to the degree that you can, and this is the big one that's probably missing, Brian, is as you free up your time, you have to go reinvest it, correct? Like a lot of people hear that. It's like, okay, I got all this time. So my whole thing isn't 4-hour work week. My whole thing is become the best version of yourself. And I actually want to acknowledge you for something you said earlier that I loved, is you said that when I started doing the YouTube, this got better and this got better and this got better. Here's why. Everybody's curious. This is my belief. I think everybody on earth is here to do two things. Number one, become the best version of themselves. What I call the 10.0 version of yourself, your highest self, the person that, whatever faith you believe in, let's call him God. God created you in his image. He knows what your potential is, and you should try to become that. You should wake up every day to try to be the best version of yourself, and then share that with the world. Give that person to the world. YouTube, content, your family, CrossFit, your church. I honestly don't care, but that's actually part of the exchange. It's the law of reciprocity. It's the law of it's how we create value in the world. I'm not surprised, Brian, your business got better and opportunities came to you because it's an energetic exchange, right? When you buy back your time, the three areas that you should be investing to complete the loop, because I give you the framework, the buyback loop. If you don't do the last part, which is fill, audit, transfer, fill, the fill part is where you actually like bounce forward, right? It's the slingshot, boom. And the three areas are, number one, your skills. Asking yourself, what's the next thing I need to learn to invest, like to get better at in my business? Is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it leadership? Is it operations? Is it systems design? Whatever the skill is, most people will know, okay? The thing that keeps catching you up, that's your area. So skill. It's like a ladder, right? It's a ladder of success. The left side of it is skill. The right side is beliefs. Brian, you said it best. It's not what you know, it's what you believe to be true that just simply isn't true that'll harm you. So what are the world views that you have around money, around time, around people that are just beliefs that will always hold you back? Like in my book, I talk often, 80% done by somebody else is 100% freaking awesome, right? People that don't have that belief, are we surprised that they can't build a team? No, because their belief is that nobody can do it as good as me. That's not true. It's simply not true. Look at your competitors that are bigger than you. Clearly, somebody else can do it. You haven't figured it out. Right. Go look in the mirror and get honest with yourself. So that's the beliefs. And then the rungs of the ladder that you're climbing are the character traits. So character traits are consistent, the mental toughness, positivity, energy. So like if you work on the skills to get forward momentum, invest in busting the beliefs, the mind monsters, the negative self-talk, and lock those into the character traits of becoming the best version of yourself, the highest version of yourself, your 10.0 version of yourself. Then you become a person, like I said earlier, that can receive the financial rewards and all the other stuff that comes with that, right? And build a life that not only will have all the things you want, but you'll get the time back, because it's not about time. It's about leverage.
So good, dude. So good. I'm just soaking it all up. I hope you guys are listening and taking notes, and sit back down on a quiet time, with pen and paper, write these notes down and go through the buyback principle book. Dan, I gotta relate. You said, earlier, be, do, have. I got that from Kiyosaki 15 years ago. I said, everybody wants to have, very few people want to do, even less want to be. Right. And then, last fall, I did a podcast that was pretty controversial, which I don't care. And I talked about productivity hacks. And I said, I hire out like everything, from my litter to be delivered to our food, to this, to that, everything and everybody. And that's how I got my time back. I arbitrage, sell it for higher, hire it out for lower, right? All this other mess. And my income's grown 50 grand a year every year for the last couple of years. I have access to nobody like a Dan. My best guys are other 8-figure guys in the green industry. And they will tell you handedly, I got a friend named Corey. He's got a $30 million company. He's like, I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He's like, I just have a great team. And he's just empowering people in his company, and it's grown to a juggernaut in the Midwest. And I'm like, okay, I really have to start being a bigger student of success. And so any which way, that's where, at 10 o'clock at night, we have a newborn baby, and one was on the way, obviously. So I'm like lurking late night on Instagram Reels, doing what everybody else does late night, just trying to veg out for like 2 minutes. And when your stuff came up, I said, this is somebody that, I don't know if it's just the way you said it, right? It's one of those deals. A lot of people say similar stuff, but you came with the execution. You came with a different way of saying it. I got the book, already skimmed through it once. I'm like 3/4 through the audio book. Got a little bit of time sometimes when I'm on the mower, go figure. I'm loving it. I'm eating it up. It's really, really good. last question I have for you, and you can add in if anything else you want to add really quick, but there's a couple of philosophies like the company of one, and not to be controversial, but company of one or build a big team, right? It's like the old like Italian joke. It's like the guy who's a fisherman and then American comes by and says, hey, you can like get more boats and then get nets and get the processing company. And then what do you do with this huge ship? And the guy's like, well, then you sell it to investors. Then you have hundreds of millions of dollars. And he's like, and then what? He's like, well, then I go buy a boat and go fishing in the bay. So which one have you found? No right or wrong answer, obviously, but company of one, you do it all, owner operator, whatever you want to call it, or build that big business, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 100 million. Like what have you seen takeaways from time or happiness or purpose or passion? Like, do you have any conversation about that? Because that's one that I get a lot from a lot of my following.
I think anybody that thinks like that is selling themselves a small dream, and I ain't buying. I just can't. Look, dude, every person was born to do something great with their life. So these bullshit stories about company of one, there's nothing great about that. There's no steel sharpens steel. There's no going into the arena. There's no being an example for your freaking kids. Like, I have a real hard time with men walking around this world telling their kids about they should go for their dreams. They should do this. They should do that. Living through their kids. I coach my kids basketball. I go to the soccer games and I hear these families and I'm looking at this person and I'm going, you're mad because your kid's not listening to you. You don't listen to you. You know you're full of shit. So when people say this stuff to me, I feel bad because, look, I'm not here to play small. And in the same token, people say like, well, what if I don't want to build a big business? You have a belief about what that means. It's like people that lose weight and they go, I don't want to do another diet because their experience with a diet is negative and it was contracting and restrictive and all these things. And my philosophy is like, how about you just don't eat like a pig and you create a process and a rhythm for your health that is called life. And if you live that life, you get to walk around fit. That's how business is. I don't work more because I have a big business. I use the business as a forcing function for me to become better so that I know when I'm ready to take my last breath and I have to evaluate my life and go, did I use this time useful? Was I useful to people? Did I touch other people's lives with my words? Was I an example? Did I inspire other people? Did I have the emotional intelligence to be present with my kids in the moment they needed? Think of it this way. Become the person you needed most in your darkest times. That person is not who you are today. Okay. So if the fisherman that's on the beach, that's like, he's going to be happy. Like when he takes his last breath and he's like, I fished for 82 years. Okay. That's his karma. I don't believe that's what we're here to do. I believe that we're here to create. I think God gave us the ability for judgment and creation. He says, go on and create. Okay. Let's do that. And I think the fallacy of people with their beliefs around like a bigger business. I get this all the time. It's like, oh, I like this business. It's, I make a lot of money and it's high margins and it's easy and it's just me. Every day. It's like they read the book and then they try to sell me the shit. And I'm like sitting there listening to it. I go, you don't get it. If you get sick, if you get hurt, your family has fuck all. Right. Let's be honest. And you think that's being somebody that's providing an example, like that is irresponsible. I have a real problem with that. People selling themselves these stories and essentially if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, my family is taken care of in many different ways. Not even just my insurance policies, but my companies, like they're built as an asset. Like this is why I think everybody, they got to understand, what game are you playing? You're not playing I'm creating a place for me to have a job. I'm building an asset that's valuable that can run without me, right? And some people are like, I couldn't even see a day of how that would work. Happens all the time, every day, all around you. There's companies that are running that are owned by people right? This is what Naval taught me in San Francisco. You got to own equity in other companies. Okay. Well, when you start off, you get paid for what you do. And if you get better, eventually you get paid for who you are. Okay. And I just think that anybody that wants to sell themselves on the business of one is playing a really risky game with their lives, with their character and their word, and with their family. Okay. Because I can tell you, I know so many people that they got in an accident, they lost their voice, they got COVID, they got whatever, and they couldn't go to work. And then their business, their family couldn't provide anymore. That's and it's not hard. It's literally like 5 hires if you're smart about it, right? Like it's not far off into the distance. Okay. And then you can actually get your time back.
One of the things I get asked on a rare occasion is, Fullerton, why do you work so hard? And I'm like, because I came from double wide trailer. My wife came from like the ghetto of Detroit. Like, dude, we were losers. We're not like that much further along. I always say, we're not the new guy. I'm not Andy Frisella or Dan Martell. I'm somewhere in the middle. Okay. And I'm like, I'm trying to say the same stuff that you guys have said, not because I want to be a guru, but I'm like, no, here's what I learned like a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. It's working in my life. My income is on the grow. My time is on the grow. And I'm just trying to pay it forward to all these guys, because the chances of maybe them following your content, sure. But if they are watching mine and I can link them up to other great people, that's what I feel like I'm charged for, is just brokering some of these deals and trying to pay it forward. But it works. It freaking works. And one thing, Dan, just quick rant, is like, I get guys all the time that are like, I'm self-employed and I don't answer to anybody and I don't have any boss and I don't whatever. And then simultaneously, they always seem to regress, not progress, in terms of like their impact or their income or their taking advantage of the opportunities at hand. And that's something that frustrates me a lot, is like you said earlier, like those seeds die on the vine. And I'm like, Fullerton, why do you work so hard? I go, why are you not working harder? And I'm like, I'm not trying to be the standard. I'm trying to look up the guys like Dan and many of the guys that I get access to. So I just wanted to echo what you're saying. Like, we can all do more. We can all be more. And some people don't like to hear that. And obviously in today's economic climate and worldview, people are just like, hey, what is it? Like, everybody just wants sympathy. And I'm like, I'll be empathetic, but I'm not going to be sympathetic. Like, you can do more. Listen to guys like Dan that are encouraging you to grow and to be more. And then people like, I want to be like you, Fullerton. And I'm like, I want to be like Dan. I got a lot of work to do. So that being said, I want to be totally respectful of your time. If people want to go down the rabbit hole of all things, the buyback principle, Dan Martell, everything and above,
message me on Instagram. Like, anybody that wants to get around my thoughts and work with me privately, I built a new coaching program on the back of the book that I think is one of the best programs in the world, because not only am I going to show you the growth models that we talked about, more importantly, I'm going to challenge your mindset and your beliefs and your character traits. And I'm going to ask you to hold yourself to a higher standard. And I know that's going to be scary for people, because I believe people aren't scared of failing. They're scared of what they're capable of doing, because they realize in growth, they're going to have to hold a new standard to the rest of the world. Like, dude, if you think about it, you upgrade your lifestyle, you live in a big house now, you don't want to go back. Well, now I gotta perform. Yes, 100,000%. I'm going to ask you to improve your life, improve yourself, improve your thoughts, improve your energy, improve your just be a better version for your kids, for your wife, for your community. Because if it's never been on your heart, Brian, like if it's never been there, then it's not for you. But if it has, and you're listening to this, then for sure it's for you, because it wouldn't have even entered your thoughts if it wasn't. And that's the whole point. Amen. Some people literally do not think they're able to do more. Fine. But for the ones that do, that they know they have greatness inside of them, those are my peeps. And I think anybody that starts a business, that's just the telltale sign. Like, they know. Why did they do it? And everybody else talked about it, because they had a moment, they had a glimpse of what's possible for their lives. And I just think it's a few moves, completely different shifts. And all of a sudden it goes click, click. I got it. That's my message.
I love it, man. I love it. The possibility thinkers, bro. I love it. Hey, so Dan Martell on IG, the book, Buy Back Your Time. I got one copy. I got an audio copy, so you double dip, Dan. I got you on both. I'm generous
You'd
like
be
that.
surprised how many people do that, which I absolutely appreciate.
I'm just trying to get you, I know you're hanging in there, bought and sold 65 companies. My $12 to help you out. I get it. So anyways, I super appreciate it, man. Any parting thoughts that you got, but if not, we'll button it up, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, I really want to encourage people to consider who is their 10.0 version themselves. Like Brian, in that moment of certainty and confidence and motivation, and excitement about life, maybe it's after a workout, maybe it's after you close a big deal. Just take that energy and just draw that out. Here's, and don't give yourself a timeline. Just draw it out, write it out, and just say, in a perfect situation with no constraints, here's what I think, here's who I am, here's how I show up in the world, here's the what I've created. And that should be your North Star. And then as you do that, share that person with the world. Teach other people, teach your team, invest in your people, invest in your community. It's this beautiful thing. You've experienced it, Brian. It's an unlock for how to just show up in this world.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. I want to take it to the front,
Awesome.
man. So I appreciate it, brother. All right. Well, that's what I got, guys. Dan Martell, thanks so much, brother. We look forward to catching up with you soon.
All the best. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
There's never been a better time to step up to the legendary performance of an Exmark Laser Z zero-turn mower. You'll save thousands when you purchase the total package, a 60 or 72-inch Laser Z mower and our exclusive Tractus airless tires. Plus, qualified buyers can get 0% APR for 48 months on their purchase. But hurry, these offers end May 31st. Visit Exmark.com or stop by your local Exmark dealer for all the details.
Tickets for the green industry's largest trade show and event, Equip Expo 2023, are now on sale. Brian has arranged a way to help you save 50% on registration for you and your entire team. Simply use promo code Brian at checkout to save half off, and we'll see you this October, the 17th through the 20th in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll also provide you a special link in the show description.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.